You'll now learn how to embed images and videos into a web page. While the World Wide Web started out as text only, the ability to embed images has been around for a long time now. The image element, spelled IMG, is a void element, so just one tag is needed. It requires a source attribute. SRC is short for source, which contains the path to the image file. This can be a relative or absolute path. The most common image formats for the web include GIF, PNG, JPEG, and SVG. JPEG and PNG are very common, and a basic rule of thumb is to use JPEGs for photographs and PNGs for digitally created graphics such as logos. While not technically required, you should always include an alt attribute for images with text that gives a description about the image. This is important for three reasons. The first and main reason is that it will make your web page more accessible to visually impaired users with screen readers. Secondly, if the image is unable to be loaded for some reason, the web browser will display the alt text instead. And thirdly, the alt text will help search engines to get more information about your web page. Two other commonly used attributes for the image element are width and height. These can be used to control the image size. Otherwise, the size will default to the actual size of the image. These attributes should be given a number that represents the width or height in pixels. Don't use a unit size. For instance, say 100 instead of 100px. If you specify only the width or only the height, then the browser will automatically adjust the other dimension with the original image ratio. Let's look at an example. Here in VS Code, I have an HTML document with an image element with the source attribute set to strawberry.jpg and a descriptive alt text. If I want to get more information about this JPEG, I can actually open it here in VS Code like this, by hovering over it and selecting Follow Link. Now I can see the image, and I can also see that its size is 300 by 260. Let's close that and look at this page in the browser. What would happen if the image was unable to be loaded? I can simulate that by making a typo in the image path here. You see that when the image is broken, the alt text at least shows up. Now let me fix that typo and add an image width and a height. Let's say I want this to be 400 in width and 200 in height. Remember, this is in pixels, but you don't type px into the attribute value, just the number. And you see how the image has changed size in the browser. Now let's say that I want this to be 400 pixels in width, but I want the image height to be auto-sized to match the width-height ratio of the original image. Then I can specify only the width, but not the height, and the browser will take care of the height. I can do the same with the height as well, by giving the height, but not the width. We'll now move on to the video element. The ability to embed videos using HTML is relatively new. The video element was introduced in HTML5. Before that, videos could only be played via plugins, such as Flash and Silverlight. You can specify the source for the video with the source attribute, which can hold a relative or absolute path, just like the image source attribute. The video element supports three major video formats: MP4, OGG, and WebM. It has both a start and an end tag. The text in between the tags is what's called fallback content. If someone is using an older browser that doesn't support the HTML5 video embed tag, typically you want to have some text that says something like this example here: your browser does not support HTML5 video. Here's a link to the video instead. You can see how in this example I've used an anchor element around the text, a link to the video, and created a hyperlink to the video so that the user can go directly to it. The browser can still show the video, it just won't be embedded inside the web page. It will open on a page by itself when the user clicks the link. I showed the controls attribute in the previous slide, but I did not explain it. While not required, it's a good idea to have this Boolean attribute present because it will cause the video player controls to show up with your embedded video. That's going to be the play and pause buttons, the volume controls, and more. You can specify the width and the height of the video player, just like with the image element. The Boolean attribute of loop causes the video to replay from the beginning after it finishes. Remember, with a Boolean attribute, the presence of the attribute is all that you need. You don't need to give it a value. If you don't want it to loop, then just don't include the loop attribute. Finally, I want to mention the autoplay attribute only to say that generally you shouldn't use it. The autoplay attribute will cause the video to automatically play as soon as the user loads the page. Most users do not enjoy this behavior. Browsers these days will often suppress this behavior even if you do use it. I'll note that it exists, but my advice is don't use it unless you have a very specific need to do so. I'll show you a brief example of the video element as well. Here I've embedded one of the earlier videos from this course. You can see in the browser that the controls are present, but if I were to remove this controls attribute from the video element, they go away. We are now finished with the overview of the image and video elements. Go ahead to the next exercise to get some practice using both.